Hello, hello. Welcome to Move for a Movement. Welcome back. Welcome new viewers. I have with me here today the co-directors and co-founders of Boston-based Evolve Dynamicz, Zizzi, Lisa Giancola, and Nicole Zizzi. So glad to have you both here today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, of course. How are you both doing today? Surviving the heat, kind of?
Trying to.
One good thing about the heat though is that it helps you release your muscles when they're tense. So that's one positive I try to remind myself of.
That is very true. But it's something to keep in mind if you're already hypermobile. It's like, ooh, maybe I gotta use a little more strength, protect the joints.
Oh, but yes. Well, I am hypermobile too, so I do have to be careful.
All right, jumping right in, just a little bit more about what Evolve Dynamicz does. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I always love to kind of start with the mission statement because that gives a good window into what particular company entity does. So, Evolve Dynamicz seeks to confront the challenges of a millennial life with a sense of openness and vulnerability. Our work embraces these challenges with curiosity, intimacy, playfulness, and a deep-seated passion for movement. So, on a day-to-day, week-by-week, month-to-month basis, what does that work entail for the company? What's the approach to that mission that the company takes in particular?
I think
either both jump in.
On a rehearsal by rehearsal, which is like a week by week basis, when we meet with everyone, something we try to do every time we rehearse together, which COVID kind of messed with things a little bit, and if we're preparing for a performance, this doesn't happen, but we improvise. We are an improv company. We actually haven't really advertised that until now. But we believe that improv is a way to authentically connect to yourself and to other people without that language barrier. For myself, I have learning disabilities and my brain just doesn't think in words first. I think in movement. So when I'm processing all these emotions that I'm having in life, because everything's stressful, especially with the pandemic, improv really helps me to just process it and get through it. And it's nice to do it with friends.
Absolutely. And it also is a way, it's honest, it's unjudged, and like Nicole said, it can unlock inner questions and thoughts, which, although we are improving, individually, but also within a group, it helps make the connections and just enhance our community overall, which we absolutely love.
Yeah. And on more of a bigger picture basis, we do a lot of work with mental health advocacy through dance. And I think that this is something that our generation, millennials, are the ones who are bringing into the public discourse. And I think that it's one of our ways of both dealing with the stresses we have and we're trying to make the world a better place so that everyone can talk about how they're feeling or be okay with how they're feeling. And I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah, there's a lot there already. The sense of challenging sort of wider narratives, wider kind of systems in the world that for one, Nicole, you were speaking about how do you process and how you learn, how you express. It's getting a little better about this awareness of, some people have a kinesthetic intelligence versus verbal or numerical. The Gardner 7 intelligences, and there's that, but it's how many educators really implement that, and how much is that? It's more seeped into wider culture is oh, if you're really smart with reading, writing, and math, then you're then you're smart. Well, it's like, no, there are so many other ways of understanding the world, of expressing yourself, of creating something, of innovating. Yeah. And then, through art, and I've talked to other organizations about this as well that do this work, dance as a platform for mental health advocacy, of that raw vulnerability that dance can be. And it's another way in versus, traditional organizing or traditional activism. But I feel like it's kind of a necessary ingredient because we cannot bypass the body.
Yeah,
The body is so central in that.
Yeah. And we put on a show in October of 2019, like very close to when pandemic started. And we, in the process of making that show, Lisa and I decided that we were going to let our members choreograph pieces based on their own experiences with mental health. And through doing that and learning each other's pieces and like connecting with each other on those really like intimate, deep, personal level, it created our community. Just the love just grew like a fire. It was emotional, but it was still fun because we were dancing. But I just really appreciated that part of that show, that I was able to learn about how my friends process their own mental struggles or well-being.
Love it. Yeah, and I'm curious on sort of a artistic basis, that improvisation, does that lead into more set choreography? What does that sort of look like in process? Or is it the improvisation sort of structured into performance, like scripts and things like that? Yeah, what does that look like? Typically, it could very much differ every time.
That's a great question.
We definitely use more like scripted, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
scripted improvisation. Yeah. Very postmodern.
Like structured improv where it's not quite set choreography, but there are certain cues or things like that. And it just allows for such special moments to happen during performances. With choreography, obviously it's great to rehearse and that's important too, but to have just like an in the moment connection and just being there, being present is such a different feeling. And it's like exhilarating.
Yeah, Lisa and I try to always do an improvised duet together in our shows, and I just always leave the stage like 1,000 times happier than before, just because it just feels so good. And there's like that extra layer of, we're performing, this is a performance and we're improvising like in real time, so like the audience is part of the magic with us. And I think improv is magic. I love it so much.
So honest.
Yeah.
And open.
Yeah. And I think
like Martha Graham said, the body doesn't lie.
Yes. I think that it also helped us. In the show that we put on October 2019 called Lucidity, there were a lot of pieces that were improv in the performance. And there was one piece where we had a speaker from an organization called This Is My Brave speak about her mental health and her story of addiction. And the dancers Lisa and I weren't in this one, but the rest of the company was. They were improvising while she was speaking. And there was this just beautiful moment where they were all like circling one dancer who had laid down in the middle of a circle, and that dancer was clearly feeling the story. It was heavy on her, and all those dancers noticed and they came over to her and they danced around her and they picked her up. And it was just the most beautiful thing ever. I wish I saw it live. I've just watched it on the recording over and over again, but it was a good moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're probably backstage orchestrating things during the show.
Yeah.
Another thing I'm super curious, like, interested in, that your company does is you work very interdisciplinarily in a very interdisciplinary way, whatever that word is. For example, a piece with a mathematician out of MIT on the way that COVID has multiplied person to person. And it was so interesting the way it was like these Zoom squares became more Zoom squares, but it was like the same dancers multiplied. Such an interesting concept. I'm curious if that interdisciplinary way of working is a particular interest of either both of you, and why that might be. Are there other pieces that you brought that approach to? Yeah, if you could speak to that generally.
Well, first off, his name is John, and he's from BU, just to get that correct.
Thank you. My apologies. My apologies to John.
This is a hard one because interdisciplinary work is just like really deeply ingrained in what we do. I think we love collaborating and learning from our collaborators through the process and using the things we learn to generate creative outputs for ourselves. It's both exciting and fun. You never know what you're going to get, and you're building relationships with people. Like all of our collaborators we've become very, very close with, and it's just building up our community even more.
Mm-hmm. And it also allows us to expand our audiences. Obviously, I mean, even myself included, like I am no math person. However, I took on a piece about Fourier series and I learned about it.
It's a collegiate level, upper level math concept for the people who don't know anything about Fourier analysis.
So yeah, I mean, last thing I took was algebra 2.
He explained it so well in the piece though. Yeah, John is so great. He must be a professor, I would assume.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The way he explained it was so clear. And what Lisa was saying about expanding audiences, and we were talking before about different learning styles. Like, I'm sort of auditory. I think I'm also very visual, as a dancer, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But that totally made the spread of COVID, that multiplying effect, it totally made it click for me in a way I kind of understood it ish, maybe conceptually, but I was like, that is it. Both from the way he explained it, but seeing it visually. So in that interdisciplinary approach, like that piece, I think it's an example of drawing different audience members in through offering a way for them to understand. If they might not think and learn how our school systems make people think and learn. Yeah. So, yeah. I love it.
We've collaborated with, our partners, Lisa's husband and my boyfriend, they're best friends too. So they actually choreographed a piece for us in our first show, and we worked together to build some like obstacles for the set. They do parkour, so they were doing parkour, and we were their muses according to them.
I love it. So they do parkour. That's like their
Yeah.
Physical outlet. That's so cool. I love it, love it. So, question for you, Nicole, and then there's a unique question for you then, Lisa. Nicole, you're very outspoken, I've noticed, on social media, etc., on issues such as neurodivergent ableism, on just how broken the American healthcare system is. I know you had an experience with hip injury. You had to have, that was like a lot from you for what I could understand. Yeah, everyone also follow her on Hip Power Recovery. We're going to put that in the show notes. People can follow. Yeah, I'm curious, sort of, for you, I can sort of assume, but yeah, for you, why is it important to speak up in those ways? And in terms of reception, have you noticed maybe your followers, there's a door of understanding open, or there's a shift in perspectives, or in what you've been able to share through that being outspoken?
Yeah. Well, so I'll answer the first part of your question, but I have a short-term word processing disorder. So if I forget part of the question, just remind me. But I was diagnosed with autism a year ago. I was 28, and that's like a pretty big diagnosis to miss. But the reason that I wasn't diagnosed until I was an adult was because the research that had been done on autism had been done on all white male boys. So there wasn't anything about adults, and there wasn't anything about girls. But now there is an autistic, I think she's a social worker in the UK, who is doing a bunch of advocacy work to teach people about female autism, because it presents very differently from male autism. And it could be part of it, could be the way that society kind of trains us, like women are like more emotional. I hate saying these stereotypes because I don't believe them, but the way that girls present their autism is much different. An example would be like, we can become obsessed with things. That's an autistic thing, autistic obsessions. Obviously dance is one of mine. But girls would be more obsessed with like Backstreet Boys or like things that are pop culture. So it seems normal. So it wouldn't really put off any red flags. And we're social. We want to have friends. So we will do anything to fit in. And in fact, I just realized this recently, that one of the reasons that I wanted to start a dance company was because I wanted to have friends still. Like, I have a hard time being in social settings and doing the whole small talk thing. Small talk just doesn't work with my brain. I don't know how to do it. And I very often offend people because of that. And I don't mean to, it's just hard for me. So the dance studio is a very safe place for me. I grew up in the dance studio, and I really credit dance to be the reason I am able to have friends and have really deep, meaningful relationships. And the reason I am outspoken about all of this is because I want to help the other girls who were like me. I don't want them to have to live the way I lived as a child. I just thought that there was something wrong with me, that I was a bad kid, that my parents didn't know what was wrong with me, so I was always getting in trouble, and I just felt like I was flawed and broken, and I didn't fit in this world. And I don't want any other kid to feel that way, especially young girls. Girls in social situations, young girls can be very mean. And there's this saying in like the social media activism world that girls in kindergarten and first grade can tell who's autistic by making fun of them, but doctors can't tell after years and years of education. Yeah. But there was another part of the question, right?
Yeah. So in terms of how it's been received, do you think you've been able to educate people, open minds, shift perspectives?
Yes, I would say that my followers, yes, have been very receptive, but that's probably because they're all like me, very open-minded and socially conscious and aware and willing to learn, and they love me, so they want to help me. But I have run into problems like in the real world where I can't really control my followers. That people don't believe I'm autistic because I can speak so well, which is it's a harmful stereotype that autistic people can't communicate, and that they don't have empathy, because clearly I have a lot of empathy because I love all my dancers so much that I just want to touch them all the time and dance with them. But I've had providers even say, oh, you're not autistic, that physician was wrong in diagnosing you. And I'm like, why would I make this up? Like, I just want to feel better. Please help me. But
and that's a big aspect of ableism, from what I understand. It's like telling people what a condition is, and like not believing, like, just because it isn't a certain like severity or doesn't manifest in a particular way, oh, that's not you.
yeah.
It's like, don't tell me what my experience is.
Yeah. Or like you don't know what I struggle with when I'm at home
Right.
and alone. Like, you can't tell me. Yeah, I get really frustrated with that. But me speaking out on social media about that, and I've had so many bad experiences with the healthcare system that I honestly can't talk too much about it right now because I'm a little emotional, and if I go too far deep, I won't be able to get out of that emotional pit right now. But me being an activist and speaking out is my way of dealing with the ableism and the hurt that I feel when I hear an ableist comment or something upsets me. It's my way of processing and my way of saying, okay, let's take this pain and let's do something productive with it so that I can let go of it. And it usually works. Sometimes it doesn't. But I like to be openly vulnerable, and that's part of our mission statement too. So that's why I do it.
Sounds like dance also is a safe space, sort of a refuge for you in a different way, maybe. Sounds like.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah, I mean, and if anyone ever has any questions,
Lisa,
please reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I'm always happy to answer questions.
Yep, we'll put all tags, everyone follow. So yeah, Lisa, with you, I'm curious, you work as a dance educator and administrator for very young children, from what I understand. I would love if, from that vantage point, you could speak to the importance of the arts and movement for that age group, developmentally, socially, et cetera, just from what you've seen. Because of course, it's always the first thing to go in education. So underestimated, the importance from what I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I can stress enough how important the arts are for kids, especially when they're so young. It helps with their development, helps with their motor skills, and just like being able to be in social situations. It goes beyond what is on the surface of going to dance and doing an annual recital. It's about the community and the relationships you build, and the skills you acquire, not only for technique, but also for problem solving, the ability to work as a team with others. Like, you go to school and do group work, and sometimes there's the one that's just not really good at it, and you're like, come on. So in a weird way, dance helps with that. And starting at a young age, you just sort of instill that in a way that, it's not like, here, you're going to dance and you're going to learn skills for life and this and this. It's like, you're here to dance, but you just sort of like take it all in a subconscious way. And after being an educator for about 7 years now, I've had the privilege of seeing some of my students really grow, and hearing their ability to also understand what dance can do for them has been astounding. We have a summer dance program where some of the older kids write their own bios, and they put them on a poster for like their parents to come see. And so many of them put in like, I'm so thankful for like the community that dance has given me and the friendships I've built. And it's just wonderful. Just wonderful. And I also saw through the pandemic, a lot of kids who took dance and just continued it like over Zoom and through that hard time, they had such an easier time coming back to in-person social situations than those who didn't. And, it just felt very empowering as a dance educator. So if you have the ability to get your kids into any kind of arts, I highly recommend it.
Mhm. I sort of wish that we could have gotten data about that. I wonder if anyone did, like kids involved in the arts coming back into in-person school, which was super stressful for so many kids from what I could understand, understandably. I sort of hate that we need data for those kind of things, but that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. I as a dance writer, I've written about that, about the arts being this really unique space to build those skills of, of social emotional learning, teamwork, understanding history, understanding, social dynamics, and, the way the world works, and the way to be in community with people and build towards something. It's really like there's sports, of course. There's other things kids can do, but the arts do it in this unique way that you really can't compare anything else to.
Absolutely.
At least has been my experience. Love it. Love it. Love it. So back to the company. I am curious, either both of you can speak to this. What's one thing that you're particularly proud of that the company has accomplished? And what's one goal, growth area, something you'd like to address going forward?
I'm proud of everything. It's hard to pick.
I was like, can we pick separate ones?
Mention everything if you want.
I mean, I would say one of my proudest moments for the two of us was putting on our first full-length show. We worked tirelessly to put it together. It was called Spaces, and it was basically like a visual and oral journey through the solar system. We invited other companies to come create pieces that were connected to individual planets, with some sort of visuospatial connection. And we had these poems and interludes that connected and introduced each one. And it was just phenomenal. Best first show.
Yeah, that was a really fun show. I mean, they're all really fun, but that was a special one because it was the first one.
Not a small thing. That first big evening length, it's not a small thing. And I love that concept so much because I'm an anatomy nerd. But not yeah, astronomy, all that good stuff.
I can pick a favorite moment too. I think my recent favorite moment was when we sold out our first show, which was amazing. I didn't know that was going to happen. I was so surprised. There was
really stressful. We had people on a wait list. We didn't know tickets.
The whole ticket debacle. Like, yes, that was a thing, but it was a good problem to have, and it was just so powerful performing for a full house. Like, it was amazing. I love it.
Not a small thing. Yeah, to get that, like, people actually like butts in seats, that can be a struggle. So that is amazing. Love it. What can we look forward to from the company? What can we support? Keep an eye out for, with the caveat that COVID and then Delta comes like over the hill, creeping and like staring at us. That said, yeah, what can we support and look out for?
Well, before COVID, through COVID, continuing post-COVID, well, kind of in COVID, we're still working on the math methods project with John. So he wrote a textbook called Mathematics for Methodological Science.
Mathematical models for molecular science.
Oh.
That's a lot of M's.
That is a mouthful.
Oh, I was like, I got this. Okay, what Nicole said. So our goal when we started the project was to dance like each chapter. So we are continuing to do that in hopes of creating a full-length show to take to many different places and building upon finding new audiences and bringing our work to non-traditional and traditional spaces.
Yeah, John has talked about wanting to show the work to his students too, which I think is a cool way to get your students excited about math.
Mhm. Very topical, say that much.
Maybe they'll get extra credit if they come to the performance. We can get more butts and seats.
We're always thinking.
Thinking. Yeah.
Something
Love it.
else that we're thinking about doing soon too is we want to do a full evening length improv show, and we want it to be more of a casual show, and we want it to be about community healing, processing the pandemic, processing the losses we all have faced, and the grief, and even the happy things that have happened, and just being fully present together in the space and doing that, and maybe even inviting the audience members to join us if they're comfortable, and just make it a place for processing all this shit that we've been going through. Excuse my French. But I don't know when that's going to happen because of Delta variant, but that's been what's been like helping me get through. Like, we will perform soon. It will happen.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a hunger for that, to be together in space for art. You know, like whatever you could put on, there could be this appreciation for just the context of being together for healing through art, I think is huge. And also the mission of mental health advocacy, like there's so much there. Just the numbers we're seeing of, you know, depression and anxiety, just understandably from, because this is not how we evolved to be over Zoom together. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All righty. Anything else you'd like to throw out there that we didn't touch on before we wrap up? So go right ahead.
If anyone listened to us talking and is interested in collaborating, reach out to us, because we love collaborators and we love meeting new people and we love working on a million different projects at once.
Yes, absolutely.
Artist types don't stop. Like they're never, always more ideas than you can
Always.
actually make happen.
Yeah.
But again, a good problem to have.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you so much, you both. I just have like this huge smile. I feel lighter. So awesome talking to you both. Yeah, and we will keep in touch.
Yes. I
Absolutely.
love talking about dance.
Yes.
Anytime you want to talk, let me know.
But I do. Oh, of course. All right, everyone tuning in, thank you so much. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, share it with someone you think might also enjoy. All that good stuff really helps the channel. And we will see you next time. Thanks so much.